think it's a real understanding that no matter what you do, you're going to screw it up. It's just trying to screw it up as intelligently and with the least amount of collateral damage as you can. And if you can help steer them towards Jesus, who will not screw them up, that's the real thing that's going to impact their life.
Thanks for joining us today on Dad Speak, where real dads share real stories about their fatherhood journeys. Today's show is brought to you by Beaumont Productions, videos that grow your business and reach your community.
Welcome back, Dad Speak. Glad to have you all back. A little bit of a different structure. This time around, we have a one-on-one with Jim Garvin. Jim, I will let you introduce yourself. You can tell us what you do, your kids' names, their age, and an icebreaker question. I know you weren't expecting this one.
I didn't know that was coming.
Hitting you out of the
Totally
park.
an icebreaker. Okay.
So if you were to give your kids $100, okay, each kid gets $100, what are they doing with it?
Oh, that's easy.
Okay.
A slam dunk. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on. We've been talking about this for a while now, so I'm excited to be here. My name is Jim Garvin. I'm from St. Louis, 47 years old this year. And I have a few jobs. One of them is my wife and I, we invest in real estate. So I manage our real estate portfolio, which on days like today in St. Louis are dealing with flash floods in basements and all the things that go along with that. I also am blessed to be the chaplain for St. Louis City SC, which is St. Louis's local MLS team, and whatever else God calls me to. So that's that part of it. My kids are McKenna, 17. She's a senior in high school. Mason, who's 16, he's a sophomore. And then Ellie is in 6th grade, and she's 12. All right, $100. Here we go. Very quickly. Without a doubt, McKenna spends it on a country concert ticket.
Okay, who's she seeing?
It's hard because since the Taylor Swift, Morgan Wallen thing, these tickets are just crazy. So
forget about the price. Like everything flat is $100.
Oh, Morgan Wallen.
Okay.
Morgan Wallen in a second.
Okay.
Mason is more like a raccoon. He would probably get a stick of gum, a video game, some Gatorade, and he'd probably give $5 to the guy in the corner. That would be, it's like a potpourri of
what happened to the other 50? That's the real
he doesn't
question.
Know where it is. Yeah. That's a part of being a raccoon.
Yeah.
Ellie really is which is crazy for a 12-year-old. She loves skincare. So washing your skin and taking care of it. So I'm learning a lot of things that I never thought I would learn, Jake. And one of them is that there's this product called Drunken Elephant.
Okay.
Which at first I was freaking out when I heard this, and I'm like, what kind of cult are you joining?
Yeah.
But it's just products that help you clean your face and keep good skin. So she'd probably spend it on that.
Okay. And skincare products are expensive.
Crazy. Had no idea.
They are, Abby, when we're budget planning, Abby had to go to me. She's like, hey, just to let you know, I'm out of skincare products. And I was like, what? Why is this why is this a topic of conversation? She's like, no, they're good skincare product. It's very expensive. Very so that's expensive. At first I would have never balked of what do you mean? It's $100, that's like a quarter. No. You're probably looking at, that's probably $80 the $100, if not the whole $100.
Whole $100.
I love
her Amazon cart's already full.
Okay, got
actually, my Amazon cart is yours.
yes, there it is. Well, you have 2 teenagers in the house. Pivotal years. Give me one joy and one struggle that you've had raising teens.
That's a great question. I think there's so many joys. But I think probably the one that first popped in my head is when you see your kids use their gifts and really enjoy it. That there's pure joy in that. McKenna is an incredible writer, and she'll probably be embarrassed and she'll hope that nobody that she knows but she's an incredible writer. And so when you read something that she's written, you get so filled with all the things. And I could go through for probably the other 2 as well, but that'd be an example of that. The struggle?
Yes.
I would say the struggle for me is watching them walk close and far away from God, and internalizing that a lot of times. Like I constantly want to make it my responsibility when they walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes in. So we had sort of a pre-conversation that you guys did not hear, but you were talking about this concept of when you are raising teens specifically, your upbringing really starts to come out, and for better or for worse, you start seeing the fruits of your childhood seep into your parenting. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, like I can't speak on it with authority, but I'll tell you my journey is, and really even in like my work as a leader in the church or a chaplain, we all come with father wounds. Mm-hmm. We all come with father wounds. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Yeah, you're gonna wound your child in some way. And so understanding my father wounds, even though I have an incredible father, and then understanding generational issues. You know, the Bible talks about generational blessings, generational curses.
Yes.
Right? There's even some foundational work right now that talks about the genetic differences that happen in different groups of people coming from all over the world based on what those societies experienced. And I wish I had a better statistic there. But that sort of a concept of what are the things that happened before us or to me that now come forward, and either my child's living in my house while I'm still wrestling with my stuff,
yes,
and trying to figure out who I am and what I want to be, midway through my 40s, let alone what I may be imposing on them.
Yeah.
So I just said it's been a journey of just trying to understand myself and also understand how God made them.
Yeah, and they're at a certain age where they're seeing and starting to understand your journey as a man. Yeah. It's like as a child, you don't see you don't really see your father and mother as human beings. You really don't. You just see them as like they're just like mom and dad. I
come into the kitchen, there's food there. It's amazing.
Exactly, right? But at least for me, it wasn't until like 15, 16, 17 where you start to finally see your parents as these characters that exist outside of mom and dad.
Yeah.
What does dad do, and how does dad react not only to me, but outside of the home?
Yeah.
And how does dad react when this happens or when this happens? And you start defining mom and dad as a character versus just being mom and dad.
Yeah.
And that's a scary concept.
And that there's a character arc.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And what that looks like. And my flaws, I never am more sensitive about my flaws than when my kids, kind of identify it. All the time. Very sarcastically. Very, very wittily.
Well, it's like, like when you sit across like a 4 or 5 year old, they're just brutally honest. Like, you smell, it's just like, that's like it's a whole different hurt.
Yeah.
But like teen hurt, I would imagine, is also a different hurt where it's like this like witty, sarcastic,
yep.
hit from down under, slicing where exactly, where to go.
Yep.
Let's talk about something that I know a lot of teen parents deal with on a regular basis: dating.
Oof.
Huge topic.
Oof.
Huge topic.
Okay.
Boundaries, right? Like, how do you, as a father, right? Because everyone always says, especially they have a girl, they're my daughter's never dating, shotgun, whatever. But when push comes to shove, that's never true, right? Because we're human beings and we're people. So how do you realistically create boundaries around that? And as a dad, what's been your experience around dating?
Yeah, so praise God that I have an amazing wife that's beautiful that hopefully listens to this. But early on, what we talked about with the kids was a boundary of, we really don't want you dating one-on-one until you're 16. Like, how much marginal value is there 13, 14, 15 of getting one-on-one with somebody?
Yeah.
there was always going to be crushes, and we understood that. We didn't try to villainize that, or, oh, you can't have those kind of feelings. Because I think that's just the way that people mature, and you start to get these butterflies in your stomach and trying to sort out what that was. But one-on-one, not until they're 16. And that was hard because there was a lot of other kids, especially at their high school, that were kind of coupling up early. And so they didn't understand why we had that rule. Obviously, 2 of the kids now are past that point, and each of them have had relationships. And so within those relationships, like, a lot of our boundaries have been about the amount of contact that they have, the amount of digital contact they have, a real encouragement that whenever that boy or girl wanted to come to our house, they were always welcome.
Of course.
And really try to get them there and know who they were, but also, a little bit of like supervision and having your eye on things. In my daughter's case, she's been now dating a gentleman for about 6 months, and he is a great guy. We've really gotten to enjoy knowing him and his family, and we even just took him to Lake of the Ozarks with us.
Oh,
so, yes.
That sounds like a big deal.
Yes, it was good. They did very well.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Got it. And you talked about, obviously we live in a digital age, so, privacy is huge, within that. How do you create boundaries around that? Is there leeway within that? Do you scale up to that, right? Like you talked about, no one-on-one contact for 12, 13, 14, 15, until 16, right? Does that work the same on a privacy level, or what are boundaries that you and Brooke have drawn around there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that, probably back to that term marginal value. Like, when it came to social media, like, we just did not see that much value for them early on, even though there was intense pressure, from peers, et cetera.
Yeah.
However, we didn't want them to turn, 19 years old, they're leaving the house, and have no exposure to having social media.
Yeah.
So, it's been a phasing in approach, roughly freshman year through senior year, where we give them more and more ability to have the responsibility to have that.
Yeah.
We're a big fan of Bark. We're a big fan of Bright Canary. Is doing some incredible work over there. The chief technology officer over there is a friend of mine, and I'm really like some of the things that those guys are doing. Sorry, chief marketing officer. But yeah, we use those technologies, and that's how we think about it.
And as a dad, like, how do you approach those conversations? I can't imagine that every parent, every parental unit has I'm sure, a different view on how they're going to parent their teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. And especially when no matter where you're homeschooling or you're private school, wherever you are, your teens are going to get exposed to these different types of values.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that as a dad and say, okay, here are our values, right? Instead of saying, this is just the way we do things here, right? It's my household. I mean, do you do that? And if so, like, how is that received?
Yeah.
And if you don't, like, what's the alternative to that?
Yeah, I think definitely the base or foundation is just trying to have a rational conversation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes that gets to a place where, they don't appreciate, just because of where they're at and the sum of their life experiences, why their mother and I have chosen that position. And so then it may be a little bit more of, hey guys, this is what the rules are going to be while you're living in our house. But, hopefully what we demonstrate is that it comes with a lot of respect for who they are. And
Do you see a lot of you in them when they?
Oh. Yes. McKenna she's just very sharp and witty, and I can remember being that age and trying to like just be not, this is more my stuff than hers, but like just be so sarcastic and come back on my dad and my mom and stuff like that. So I definitely feel the challenge of that now with her. But even as she's approaching her senior year, she's kind of chilled out a little bit with that. So now it's more the other two.
Yeah. How do you handle that? I mean, I know for me, the reason I butted heads with my father was just, we were so, and I didn't see it in the moment, but we were just so similar.
Yeah.
And I think it was frustrating for him to see parts of his negative aspects coming through, and, me probably mirroring some of the anger that he had and just grew up with, and me mirroring that and him being frustrated with that and, just clashing, and it's frustrating, I'm sure, as a father to see that in your children. And I'm sure it's a part of them maturing and growing up and becoming young men and young women.
Yeah.
How do you approach that as a dad and as a father? And, what type of emotional things are you going through and kind of walking yourself through?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. One of my challenges is just irrational anger. Mm-hmm. And so nothing has tried that more than being a father. And I have screwed it up so bad. If you're out there and you're a dad and you need somebody to just just connect with you over at, we'll put my email or something in the show notes. Please feel free to reach out to me. But, I screwed up really bad in terms of lashing out in anger, lashing out in an emotional response. And then I had the audacity to be surprised when my kids came back with that, because that's what they saw. I think over the last couple of years, how that shifted for me is really realizing, for me and for them, it's a series of choices. And so why not, even as irrational or emotional as they may be, just take a deep breath, lay out the choices.
Yeah.
You can make this choice, or you can make this choice, and this is what these two roads look like. And it is all in your decision. And that seemed to have been worked a little bit better for Brooke and I. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah. I think laying it out, like you said, sometimes maybe rationalization doesn't work all the time.
Yeah.
but starting off with that, and giving a why to the direction is, I'm sure, probably very valuable to someone who's trying to figure out the world around them, try to understand the values that they want to hold and the values, why is someone doing this and the other person doing this, and figuring out how they want to weight things, because you guys aren't the only influence in their life. They have other influences around them, and whether that be they're starting to date, or they have teachers, whether for bad or for good, and they have friend groups. How do you guys balance those other weights in their lives? Or do you guys for you as a dad, how much guidance do you provide there? Especially in friend groups, are you like a rudder there, or are you more of I'm steering this boat, because hey, no shame in either, especially in the day and age that we live in, there's a lot of crap out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for us, and every kid's different, right? So I'm going to kind of give you maybe our overall philosophy, and then it's played out a little bit different. I mean, first off, we've got introverts, we've got extroverts in our families. We have people that need only one or two friends. We've got those that feel like they need 35.
Yeah.
They need to be in, intimate conversation with them every single day. So it's kind of meeting the kid where they're at. Probably one guiding principle that I always ask them is, hey, of your friend group, how many would you say know Jesus? And in spite of that, whatever that number is, how many of the ones that know Jesus actually help you walk closer with him? And that has been a good, I think, check and balance and they don't always want to hear it, but okay, who am I surrounding with, and how much influence do they have on my life?
Yeah.
We've had, they've had friends that have probably been really good for them, and they've had some friends that have not been. And that's been some hard conversations of, okay, do you have an awareness of what your relationship with this person is causing you to do and to act? And a lot of times that's been a transparency for them. They haven't been able to see the impact that person's had. Yeah. So it's felt like we're the bad guys, right? Because we're trying to help coach and do things. But for them, it's like, well, you don't want me to hang out with so-and-so.
Yeah.
So I hardly think we've gotten it perfect, but those are some guidelines we try to introduce to that.
Yeah. I think it sounds like faith is a really good metric point, that you guys keep pointing back to. And it's probably hard, for teens of how do you guys balance that, of this is we're a faith-driven family, faith is a big part of our lives, but also your teens, I mean, how does that function in your family unit?
Yeah, I mean, the kids are blessed that they go to quote unquote Christian schools, but anybody will tell you that Christian schools are just filled with kids who don't act like Christians. And probably adults and parents too.
Yeah.
So there's no magic wand for that part of it.
Yeah.
But what we've hoped for is that they've been in places where the worldview has been somewhat aligned with the Bible. That's something that's really important. In terms of, I want to make sure I get the question right. Is it, how have we invested in them in terms of their faith? Or
I think it comes from a view of, you hear a lot of people who say, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, my parents forced me to go to church, and that really turned me off from religion.
Yeah.
You hear that a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's always when I was a teenager. I mean, it's like these pivotal years, right, where parents, I think, are trying to do the right thing. Like, they're trying to guide their son or their daughter toward what they believe to be, the one living true God, in their faith. But somewhere along the way, there was a miscommunication, or there was the opposite happened, right? And it just, bounced back.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, there was a study done on the people that end up in this last couple of generations staying in church, because people are leaving the church in kind of record highs. And interestingly, they did like this 20-year study, and there were two factors above all that were associated with them staying. And it wasn't what I thought it would be. It was praying, which is probably one of them, but the second one was serving.
Really?
And I thought that was really fascinating. And it caused Brooke and I to say, how do we not just help our kids serve in our church, but serve using their gifting? And so our investment in their faith has been, okay, how can we encourage them to do that? For example, like our kids, teach the children's church at our church.
Yeah.
16, 17-year-olds. And trust me, those little kids, those 4 and 5-year-olds, they would much rather see a Mason's energy at 16, the 6'1", excited, silly, than 47-year-old man.
You don't say. Yeah.
That's a real bond. Yeah. But, trying to invest in that way, I think, has been significant for their relationship with Jesus.
I love that. Changing topics here, college readiness. So that's another huge part. And I know we've sort of had conversations outside of this room. What does that look like for you guys? I know some parents do a lot of out-of-state exploring, in-state exploring. What does that process look like in your household?
I would say it's half-baked, because we're just kind of going through it. Again, the English have this saying, which is horses for courses. And it means when you look at all kinds of different races from a horse perspective, different horses do well there. And so it's the same way as college. Like, how do we pick a place where our children can thrive, where there's at least some semblance of a worldview that supports what we believe in? That doesn't mean that their only options are Christian schools. But if they're going to go someplace, is there a strong church that they can connect into? Is there a strong, Fellowship of Christian Athletes or Crew or all these different organizations for them to plug in? McKenna is a very good barrel racer. So she rides horses.
Okay.
And she rides them in what's called Western style. And so she just loves to fly. Like, since she was little, she loved to ski. She loves to jet ski. She loves to go fast. So one of the things she's wrestling with right now is, does she want to ride in college or not? And that's a pretty big decision, because it really narrows the pool.
Oh, I'm sure.
Pretty quickly. Of the kind of organization, kind of colleges that have that. So, that's one piece we're walking through. The ACT, SAT process has matured a lot since when I went there. So, luckily in both their cases, they're doing really well. But it's all the foundational places of, do you have your grades right? Do you have, how serious are you about your interests? Is this really something that's more of elective or an intramural, or is this something that you're going to go after? I was blessed to play college soccer, and so it's a job, right? When you play sports in college, and we want them to understand that. But yeah, for McKenna's purposes, we're probably down to 5 or 6 that we're looking at pretty seriously.
I mean, it sounds like you're not managing, but you're trying to help juggle multiple young adult lives.
Yeah.
Is what raising teens sounds like. And for me, this entire time I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh my gosh, it sounds like a lot. I'm like, oh my goodness, right? It's like, it's not just you. It's not just Brooke. It's like, it's everyone, it's like, and I'm sure, in the moment, you just do it, right? But I got to tell you, from an outsider's perspective, it seems very overwhelming. I mean, what do you do to try to step outside of that? Like, where's your rest point in that? I mean, you got to have, as a father, some type of exit, at least for a little bit, within the chaos.
I mean, I think one real practical thing is we've just been blessed with amazing friends, with just the world's best friends. And it's when you go through a week of feeling like, from a parenting perspective, you're just holding on to a car that's running away and it's just dragging you behind like this. And you can go out and have a Mexican dinner with friends who are also going through those same struggles. Yeah. There's a lot of commonality. And there's a guest that I'm hoping shows up on your show one of these days who's one of those guys. And it's having a community of people to share that with. I think it's a real understanding that no matter what you do, you're going to screw it up. It's just trying to screw it up as intelligently and with the least amount of collateral damage as you can. And if you can help steer them towards Jesus, who will not screw them up, that's the real thing that's going to impact their life.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I get mixed reactions when I bring this show to people. And one reaction is, wow, that's really, it's all positive, right? It's really cool. And the person's really bubbly about it. How can I share? It's all positive. And then the second reaction, and I'm overgeneralizing here, but the second reaction is it's met with this timidness of, wow, that's really cool, but it's not for me. And the reason it's not for me is because I've messed up as a dad. Like, I would never be on your show. But the reality is everyone's messed up. Like because you said that, you're the perfect candidate to sit across, and to have on the show. It's like that's part of being a father. It's like knowing that we're going to not get things right, and that's what good fathers do, is that they limit the collateral damage. And, for faith-driven men like you and I, it's about pointing to the King. It's about pointing to Jesus and saying, there is light, in this world, and we're not the light. We're just going to point you to the light. We're broken men. And, hopefully our kids can give us grace in that and see that. And hopefully our kids can also say, you know what, Dad understands that he's broken and he's not afraid of being broken. And that way they see, when I am broken, it's okay to be broken, right? Because that is part of being a person. Is like, we're going to break, right? We're going to have low points. That is just part of living life. So it's just so awesome to hear that you have a community to lean on for those low points, when you're holding on to that car and, it's just driving away without you, and the week just gets away from you. And I would imagine too, that Brooke is a very strong person that is also, helping you hang on there. I mean, how, you have teens in the household.
Could not do it without her.
Yeah. I mean, what is that like? You got to draw a game plan, right? I mean, you have 3 kids in the house. 2 teens, 1 preteen. I mean, what does a game plan for you guys look like? I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm sure you guys have some resemblance of a routine or a gathering that you guys are like, let's huddle here. How do we regroup with each other?
So what's our game plan for organizing the family, or our game plan for staying sane through all this, or all the above?
Well, all the above. All the above.
So this is going to sound so lame, but this is honestly, no matter how bad the week is, we have 3 or 4 shows. And no matter how bad it is, no matter how mad we are, mostly her at me for my failings, you show up on that couch at the designated time and you watch that show. And hopefully by the end of it, and it almost always works, you feel a little bit better. You feel like whatever the craziness was, it's not quite as crazy. Yeah. So making time for ourselves,
Yeah.
And even though it's, watching a show, there are shows that
Yeah.
together.
So what are the shows?
This will probably surprise you.
Okay.
The number one show that we watch together is a show called Alone.
Alone?
Alone.
Okay.
And Alone is a show where it's a reality TV show. People are taken into the Arctic tundra, and the last one to survive gets anywhere from a purse of $500,000 to $1 million.
Previews for that. Okay.
We just are in the middle of season 11, and it comes out in the summer.
11 seasons.
11 seasons.
Oh my gosh.
And we love it. It's so good. Netflix has something called the American Barbecue Showdown.
Yes, I've seen that too.
So really, really good. That's one that we've been watching. A little more conventional one, New Girl.
Yes.
New Girl, we always go back to that. There was a show in the early thousands called Chuck.
Never
I don't
seen
know if you
it.
remember that. It's worth a watch.
Okay.
Chuck, we'll go back and watch. So
I love that.
There's a few of them.
And it's nice because it's like there's no pressure to say anything to each other.
No.
Right. There's no pressure. You don't have to come with a list. Right. Just
show up.
just show up on the couch. We're just watching. That's it.
And I think it's a great microcosm of life. There's so many times when you feel in the moment anxiety or frustration or all these different emotions, and it's just magnified, right? So big. If you just get a little distance, if you just get a little perspective, yes, it's still an issue, but it's just a little bit smaller. And for us, that's been a good practice.
Nice. So let's say a dad has teens. He's watching the show, has a teen, maybe struggling at the moment. What would you say to encourage him?
I think you really, a few minutes ago, went down probably the path I would be, which is the most important thing I think you can do is show them how to fail forward. Okay? You made a mistake, go apologize. Mm-hmm. Right? You screwed something up, acknowledge it. Celebrate failing. I know that sounds weird, but I at the dinner table, how'd you fail this week? We live in such a comfortable, safe society. This is my opinion. That if we don't have a little bit more risk, can you just nudge yourself a little bit out on the diving board? How do you know that you're not the best diver that ever lived? How do we encourage them and create a safety net of love in our household for them to fail well and to see it in us? And I hope when my kids grow up, they go, hey, you weren't perfect. You did all this, but you weren't afraid to apologize. You weren't afraid to say that's on me. And we learned from you how to rebound from the hard times in life.
Love that. Love that. Last question. 60 seconds.
Oh, man. It's a long time.
60 seconds.
Okay.
They say what you post on the internet never leaves. Okay. So this podcast will eventually be posted on the internet.
Okay.
So you have 60 seconds talking straight to the kids. What do you want to say?
My 3 kids.
Your 3 kids.
Oh. I would just say that, and this is going to be hard to get through without getting emotional, which is probably why you did it. Being a father is the one thing that they can never tell you about enough good things about what it is. It is always better. Like, people told me what it would be like to have your first job, what it was like to be married. And those things are great, No matter how people describe being a father, it is way more amazing than anything I could ever experience. And so I think probably the first thing would just be gratitude, going off the failure point of thank you for letting me be your father. Mm-hmm. Thank you for all the memories, all the things, like just thinking about coming on here. Like, I had this floor. I was coming down 44, trying not to get crushed by all the crazy drivers in St. Louis. And I had this flurry of memories of birthday parties and vacations on the beach and like all this beauty that they brought to our life. So it's probably not 60 seconds, but I think it would just be a real place of gratitude and then probably just of hope for them, of how excited we are for their journeys and that we've got their back, because life is hard. but they always have a safe place to come to. So 47 seconds or whatever that was.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being here. See you in a couple weeks for another long form of Dad Speak. Adios.